In 2011, the life of 21-year-old student Bethany Ann Decker took a dramatic turn. She found herself in a love triangle. On one side, a husband who spent long periods on overseas assignments, and on the other, a lover from whom she was expecting a child. Despite having many friends and loving relatives, her sudden disappearance went unnoticed for 3 weeks. On January 29, 2011, Bethany Ann Decker left her grandparents' home and returned to her apartment in Ashburn, Virginia. Her then-boyfriend, Ronald Roldan, claimed to have seen her there later that same day. She has not been seen since. A native of Fredericksburg, Virginia, Bethany Decker attended George Mason University in Fairfax after graduating from high school. She majored in global and economic changes while working full-time. During her studies, she became pregnant by Emil Decker, a National Guard soldier. They married in 2009, and their son was born 6 months later. Emil frequently went to Afghanistan with his unit for several months at a time. During these periods, Decker often left their son with relatives in Columbia, Maryland, while she worked and attended classes. While working at an Italian restaurant in Centerville, Virginia, Decker met Roldan, a Bolivian immigrant in his early 30s, and began an extramarital affair with him. By the end of 2010, tensions had arisen in the Deckers' marriage, and Bethany moved into a separate apartment in Ashburn, Virginia. Her parents began devising a plan to extricate her from these relationships. By the end of the year, she was pregnant. In January 2011, Emil returned from his deployment for a month-long leave. Towards the end of this period, he and Bethany went on a week-long vacation to Hawaii. They returned on January 28th and spent the night at her grandparents' home in Maryland. Emil's parents were unaware of the couple's marital difficulties. The next morning, Emil saw Decker before she returned to the Ashburn apartment. Roldan said he saw her there later that same day. Since then, she has not been seen. That day, Decker called her employer to confirm her work schedule for the following week. This was the last known contact she had with anyone besides Emil or Roldan. On February 2nd, Emil's leave ended, and he returned to Afghanistan. Friends who came to see him off at the airport noted that, unlike previous occasions, Decker was not there. They attributed her absence to the couple's family problems. By February 19th, having not heard from their daughter, Decker's parents, who lived near Ashburn, were asked to check if she was there. Decker's Hyundai was still parked in front of the house, but it was at an unusual angle, with one flat tire and noticeably dusty. This was not the condition it had been in a week earlier when her grandparents last drove by. No one answered when they knocked on the door. Decker's grandparents called the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office and reported her missing. Investigators discovered that Decker had not used her bank accounts or mobile phone since the last day she was seen, nor had she shown up for work or classes. They initially focused on Emil and Roldan, as both had potential motives to harm Decker due to the love triangle. With the help of the Army Criminal Investigation Command, they contacted Emil at his remote post in Afghanistan and spoke to him over the phone. Later, they managed to bring him back to the U.S., where he had extensive conversations with law enforcement and took a polygraph test. Roldan moved out of the apartment shortly after Decker's disappearance, as the lease had expired, and moved in with his mother in Centerville. He told authorities he simply assumed Decker had returned to live with her family when she did not come back. However, investigators became more interested in him when they learned he had a prior criminal record, including an arrest for identity theft and later convictions for public intoxication and property destruction after a 2006 incident where he smashed a woman's car window. He also reportedly gave them conflicting answers about when he saw the Hyundai parked outside the apartment. In March, law enforcement searched a field near the apartment complex. They obtained a search warrant for Roldan's current residence, citing murder as a possible crime in the affidavit. Among the items seized for forensic examination were several cell phones, a laptop, and some documents. However, law enforcement could not obtain any evidence from this material that could help them find Decker. Later, Roldan stopped cooperating with the investigation. Subsequently, law enforcement described him as a person of interest. Emil later obtained a divorce from his missing wife. Since then, it has been reported that he will no longer speak to investigators unless his attorney, who says his client has nothing to hide, is also present. No records have been found indicating that Decker gave birth by the expected due date later that summer, although the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office distributed photos to the public of what she might look like closer to the end of her pregnancy. On the third anniversary of Bethany's disappearance, Kim Nelson challenged Roldan to take a polygraph test. "I would like to hear what happened," she told a Washington news radio station. "I would like him to join the list of polygraph takers, like the rest of us. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to worry about." In response, Galou reiterated that Roldan had answered all questions put to him during the initial investigation and was innocent of any crime that might have been committed. Ronald Roldan remained in Northern Virginia for several years after Decker's disappearance. In 2014, he began a new relationship with Vicki Willoughby, a woman he met at a restaurant in Manassas. She said that Roldan later became controlling and that she tried to escape the relationship by moving to Pinehurst, North Carolina, a few months later. But Roldan found out and followed her there. Their relationship turned violent. After suffering physical abuse from Roldan, Willoughby retrieved a gun she had hidden in the living room to protect herself. She managed to shoot Roldan twice, although he continued to resist, and eventually took control of the gun, shooting Willoughby 3 times, once in the head. Both survived, although Willoughby lost one eye due to the head wound. She was not charged, as investigators believe she acted in self-defense. He was charged with assault with a deadly weapon, assault on a female, and discharging a firearm in a dwelling. After being released from the hospital, he was taken to the Moore County Jail and held on $1 million bail. Detectives from Loudoun County visited Roldan in jail to ask if he was interested in talking to them again about Bethany's disappearance. He directed them to his attorney. In April 2015, he was additionally charged with attempted murder in connection with the Willoughby incident. His attorney said he intended to plead not guilty to the charges. In May 2016, after some of the evidence in the case was suppressed, Roldan accepted a plea deal from prosecutors. He pleaded guilty to 2 felony counts and was sentenced to 6 to 8 years in prison. Immigration and Customs Enforcement planned to begin deportation proceedings against him after his sentence was completed. On November 9, 2020, the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office obtained an arrest warrant for Roldan for the abduction of Decker. The LCSO returned him to Loudoun County from North Carolina after he served his sentence there. As of November 10, 2020, Roldan remains held at the Loudoun County Adult Detention Center without bond. On November 17, 2022, Roldan pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in connection with Decker's disappearance. Her body remains undiscovered. On February 21, 2023, Roldan was sentenced to 40 years in prison, the maximum term allowed for second-degree murder. He could serve the full term if he commits another crime or violates other conditions, including not contacting members of Decker's family during a 25-year suspended period. As part of a plea deal with prosecutors, Roldan agreed to give a statement about the murder for the record. He claims that he checked her for signs of life, but she was dead. He says he panicked and never called 911. He claims that he put her body in a Christmas tree disposal bag and threw it in a dumpster on the property of their complex. And that concludes our coverage of this tragic story. If you found this video informative or thought-provoking, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more updates on cases like these. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to share this video with your friends and give it a thumbs up if you found it valuable. Thank you for watching.